Edition of Unbiased America Live. We have our regular panel. We have Grant all over there on the end drinking the banquet beer. What is that?
Land Shark.
Well, good for you. Get drunk during the show. That's real professional.
Yeah, isn't it?
We have Kevin Ryan there.
Speaking of professional.
Who's already drunk.
In his palatial estate in Kennebunkport, drinking only the finest scotch. That was age, that's 10 years? Wow.
Talisker. Actually, 10's not a lot.
No,
well, look at my new...
10's not a lot. That's the problem here.
Look at my new glass here. I went to Disney. I got a glass.
Oh, you went to Disney World? Oh, that's
right. Monorail. He went to Disney World on a monorail system.
If you guys are not invested in monorails, I highly recommend it. I think pretty soon every home's going to have one.
Yeah. You see, that's why you had to skimp on the scotch, is because you took your whole family down to Disney World. I heard it's like $250 a ticket at the Disney World. Yeah, okay.
It's ridiculous.
We also have Michael Lee, who's back again. Who was out of the country for a while in Belgium, then he came back and he was on the show, and then he disappeared. Apparently it's harder to make it here in the United States than it is in Belgium. Also, there was some criminal activity there that we can't really mention on the air.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, but we're going to do a little open format today. We were supposed to have this left-leaning guy from Forward Progressives on, but I guess there was some personal things that came up. Probably just wants to watch the debate or the new episode of Family Guy or something, so he couldn't show up. But I wanted to open with Mike. Before the show, Kevin and I talked a little bit about academia. I put a post up on my personal page about, I had to write. I don't know if you guys saw it. I had to write an essay on, the nascent beginnings of the United States of America, and I wrote about how it was all predicated on white supremacy, and capitalism was a system that white supremacists used to, steal labor, steal wealth from non-whites. And we were talking about how, this, into a broader concept, how the media portrays most stories are really within that context. Most everything in popular culture is really depicted as such. And Mike, you're starting school soon, so I think like you'll see a whole new world that I don't think a lot of people on Main Street see every day. And Kevin, you were juxtaposing that with what it was like 20 years ago. Or what was it, 40 years ago? When did you go to college?
It was the late 80s I went to college, and it was totally... Now, I can't generalize based on one college experience, but from what you've told me of your schooling, it was a lot different. I mean, you actually got rewarded for critical thinking. Teachers would encourage you to debate them, to disagree with them. And again, that's just my one experience, but it sounds nothing like what you're going through.
Like I always say, there's more critical thought at the bar I work at than there is in college. It's just not about critical thought. It's really about regurgitating it's all. In my political science department, it's all Marxist, and it's just about regurgitating most of that. So it's just reading, accepting it as truth without any evidence. I mean, I write a lot of these things, and I just told Kevin this. I did a test about critical race theory, and if you don't know what that is, look that up. It is just disgusting. It really is. It's just all about white people, white supremacists essentially steal. Capitalism is a system of stealing. White people box everyone else in. Literally, it's that if you're not performing and you're a non-white, it's due to white people. Just they don't ever explain, like Asians or Jews. They just conveniently leave them out because they both outperform whites. So that's really never brought up, so it really kind of destroys their narrative. You would think that it's only really a dichotomy between black and white primarily, and then they'll throw Hispanics in there when it's also convenient. You have a lot to look forward to, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your major gonna be, though?
Oh, it's gonna be economics.
I
do think it's interesting. I think that a lot of the liberal intellectual left has a strong, and I've heard a lot about how a lot of economics or political science departments are Marxist, and a lot of the intellectual left, or a lot of intellectuals in general, are anti-capitalism, and I think maybe liberals would kind of be shocked to know and understand that the history of that is that mostly intellectuals opposed capitalism in the early days because it was immigrants and people of color who were starting businesses. In Germany, it was Jewish people. And they weren't as intellectual as some of the elites. They weren't maybe as smart, but they found an idea and they were selling and they were becoming successful and powerful. And elites didn't think that they were up to par with them intellectually. They preferred aristocratic society. So kind of the whole anti-capitalism mentality is predicated on racism. Mm-hmm. So it would be kind of weird if liberals today learned kind of the history of where that comes from. Post-capitalism in the early days, because it was immigrants and people of color who were starting businesses.
Sounds like we have a delay here. I'm hearing his voice 5 seconds after. You're still listening to him, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I could hear a delay in my own voice.
That might have been me. I'm dicking around here with some of the stuff.
Porn.
Damn it, Will.
No, I'm trying to get a link up on Facebook. Sorry.
Well, no, sort of on the topic, I tried to post something for discussion on Unbiased America this week about how murder, firearm murders, which the president gave a speech about, saying that it shows the need for more gun control, and I tried to do some quick analysis of it, and the analysis I did found that on a state-by-state level, there's no correlation between the amount of guns that a state owns, the gun ownership percentage, and firearm deaths, which you would think would be very highly correlated if guns were the reason people were being murdered. And so I started looking at other reasons or other variables and trying to find what is correlated with firearm violence. And sure enough, the number one thing correlated with firearm violence is the percent of black people that live in a state. And it took me a long time to write this write-up because when you write something like this, when you present something like this, you're going to get a lot of people shouting racism and stuff. And sure enough, the discussion mostly devolved, a lot of it devolved into people saying why I was racist. And you can't talk about these things anymore. And, especially on a campus, you're just taught conformity. You're taught not to question the narrative. And that's what I get from a lot of these people.
If you wrote about how it was correlated to whites in a state, you'd be hailed as a hero.
Yeah, I'd be on Fox News. I'd be on MSNBC tomorrow.
It was funny because I wrote this stuff, and I think of it as mostly satire. Like I'm trying to say what what an entrenched ideological leftist would say, and I write it, and I do really well with it. And sometimes I giggle at what I'm writing. I can't believe it. It's literally that whites created this hegemonic white supremacist hierarchy, and capitalism is the vehicle that they use. And that slavery was when they imported slavery into the colonies, this is what brought capitalism here. That's literally what my teachers say, is that slavery was the introduction of capitalism. And and that when Columbus got here and his genocide of the Indians is the beginning of capitalism. You can't make this up. I don't know where they get this from. Go ahead.
That's just like I had a teacher one time who taught me communications and racial communications, and she said something. I think it was basically the exact same thing as that. Mm-hmm. Was that the white man set up a capitalist society in order to exclude minorities, and they did this by creating whiteism, which is like
the culture,
which is being blunt about it, basically speaking properly and reading well and writing.
Yes. It's the culture.
Like basic things that you expect of people, being like basically educated, and that is whiteism, and it's meant to exclude minorities, and that's how you get ahead in a capitalist society. Is this like whitest? Supremacy is really all you can call it.
My teachers are a bit more eloquent. They say that to be white, they equate white with American culture. And that
exactly.
And that if these minority groups acquiesce and speak proper English, get a job, go to college, that somehow they're stripping them of their identity. Whatever quote. Well, they don't never say it, but whatever subculture they're a part of. You see, it's very multicultural. That somehow because you have a different skin pigmentation, you have you're part of a different culture, that you can't be American. You see, because to be American is to be white, which makes absolutely zero sense. So I don't, and the best is they tie in. Well, Italians at one time, they weren't white, but then they became white because when you become successful, you become white. This is what they say.
It's really ambiguous. It's really ambiguous.
And Jews are white now.
Yeah, I remember this class. It was it was like literally they have a pecking order of
Yeah.
what races are. It's like white, Arab, Hispanic, and black.
Yeah.
That's what she had taught me.
Oh, white and Arab?
Yeah, white and then or whatever. I guess is Arab the right word?
Well, yeah, Middle Eastern. I guess there's
Yeah,
Arabs
Middle
and
East,
Persians.
Arab.
But what I don't understand though is where are the Jews and Asians?
Yeah, they don't exist.
Don't include Asians. You know, I don't. Never are Asians discussed.
They're in the internment camps. They're
Yeah, I mean, they never talk about Korematsu. You know what I mean? They don't talk about that. But somehow that the Asians outperform whites is never explained. They never even try and I always say, well, why are Asians outperforming whites? Like, what if the white man's keeping them all down through the system of capitalism? Now, can you say that that Asians are keeping whites, Hispanics, and blacks down? Oh no, you can't say that. That's because it's not true.
And
So
Asians are basically the newest population group
Right.
in America, so you can't say that they have, you know, a century of success under them. They came over here most recently.
Yeah.
Just this year, I think China surpassed Mexico as sending the most immigrants to America. So that's a new arrival, and there, you know, a lot of the Asian people are very successful and they're doing very well. But you know, don't mention that to people. You know what else does not help is the fact that we've moved. We don't have economics really to lean back on the way we used to, because we've moved on to this post-autistic economic nonsense that basically says we can say whatever we want. We don't need numbers to back it up. We don't need. We're just going to tell you what we think the truth is, and you're just going to believe us. And so people can just say whatever they want in any field of study now, and get away with it. And,
Yeah,
the highest levels of academics.
I equate your post-autistic with postmodernism. I think it undergirds certainly some of the well, not all the economic heterodoxy, which I see Austrian libertarian kind of a heterodox system, but it's more so predicated on deductive logic. So at least they're using something, some aspect of the scientific method, at least one thing, which is deduction. But postmodernism uses nothing. It really elides purpose, truth, everything. It literally says there is no truth. The whole premise of a lot of these systems that they're using in postmodernism is that truth does not exist. That to a degree reality is a perception. And it's all about social discourse, that these things exist within a societal concept, to the point where they say that a male and female are different only within society. That it's just social discourse that separates a man from a woman. And I raise my hand and I say, well, if that's true, I'm pregnant. If that's the only thing that it separates, you've just gotten rid of biology. I said, why don't we just tell the biology department, we don't need you anymore. You're just, what are you engaging in? Science? What's that? There is no
social construct. That's all science is.
I said, if you say that, then that means that people drinking water, seeking shelter, eating food are social constructs. I get hungry because somebody told me to get hungry. It's just not a natural biological response so that the species survives. It's because some intellectual at the college told you that, yeah, it's a social construct. This is how insane it's become. And that's why you see the blurring of the lines between gender. Oh, they should be able to use whatever bathroom they want to use. You know what I mean? The only thing that that's different between a man and a woman are their parts. You know what I mean? That's it, and that's all we see, and all we see is sex. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, it's hard to even fathom the things that they say.
And this education is costing us more than it ever has in the past, and the value of it is probably as low, if not lower, than it has been in the past. At least for some of these majors, I mean, you're just throwing your money away. You talk about an education bubble that's primed to burst. I mean, you've got the price going up and you've got the value going down. It can't continue like this.
And you have. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go, Mike.
Well, I think maybe even a bigger problem than that is, okay, you can have these, social justice warriors that talk about these things on a college campus, and they can have their opinions. But I think the bigger threat to education is actually that you can't oppose these people.
Right.
You can't speak. Anybody that offends anybody, and everybody's offended by everything now, can't even talk on a college campus anymore. Right. You can't raise your, like you said, I raise my hand and say I'm pregnant. I'm surprised you're not a misogynist pig.
No, I am. I've been called everything.
You can't talk out. You can't be a conservative. You can't be, a Christian in some of these classes, but the same goes for some of these other schools that are more conservative. I've heard stories out of Liberty where you can't be an atheist and speak out in class. That's offensive as well. So, these college campuses are becoming like basically zero free speech is allowed. You must conform to what we're telling you. And I think that's the bigger threat to education than anything else.
That's been happening for a long time. I mean, progressives as a whole really took over institutions a while ago. I mean, starting really 100 years ago with the Fabian Socialist movement, they've really done a hell of a job. And this is something that Republicans can't even get a budget deal. Imagine what progressives and Democrats have done over the past 100 years. I mean, it was laughable in 1993 to think about universal health care. Today, it's a reality. I mean, Republicans they don't do anything. It's a party that does nothing. Democrats get things done. That's an efficient, patient, well-run machine, the Democrat Party. I mean, they've really gutted the Constitution with the help of some obviously progressive Republicans. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, it's really brilliant. I mean, what do you guys think? You think I'm wrong?
No. How much difference is there between the modern Democrat Party and the modern Republican Party, really? Exactly. I had what was it, a Venn diagram one time that showed the differences between all the different ideologies, and starting with, of course, minarchists and going all the way up to state socialism. And the difference between the modern conservative and the modern liberal was that one supported universal health care and the other did not. And that was it. Everything else they support the same. They all tend to vote the same way. So, yeah. There is a fight, and it started with the Tea Party movement to move things in a different direction, because before that time, I think Mike was saying this earlier, the discussion wasn't there about the way that government should be put in check. It just wasn't there. You had neocons who were growing government one way and Democrats growing it another way, and there was nobody saying let's put a check on government. Now at least there is. It's not a big movement, but at least it still exists.
Hey Grant, did you ever have you're young, you're 26?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a time like when you first started voting? What political party were you originally when you turned 18? What did you register as anything?
No, so I voted for McCain in 2008, but okay. I voted against Obama.
Yeah. Okay. So that was just the only reason.
Yeah. I knew that was going to be bad news, and I knew McCain was going to lose. But I mean, what are you going to do?
Oh, that guy ran another idiot.
Yeah, that was whatever idiot thought that he should be the Republican primary or the Republican candidate. Like
the same people that thought George
hanging right now.
The same people that thought George W. Bush should be, the same people that thought Bob Dole should have been, the same people that thought...
On an electability standpoint, like, look at the guy.
To be fair, George W. Bush of 1999, if we could go back and get that guy back, he wouldn't be so bad. It's what he became as president. If you look back at some of his campaign speeches, George W. Bush in 1999 and 2000 was fine. It was what he became after that was a problem.
I think you could tell from the politics of his dad that family is all very similar, and his dad blew it after riding Reagan's coattails into office. No new taxes. No, what does he do? He raises taxes. You know what I mean? Here's a guy, and that whole family opposed Reagan every step of the way. I just think I always saw Bush as a moderate. I never saw him compassionate conservatism. What the hell does that even mean? I mean, him and Karl Rove, and I don't know. I just never really, those guys never did it for me. George W. Bush, I don't think he could really get off the principles quite well. I don't know.
I think they also realized that even if you're gonna win a national election as a Republican like George Bush, I think you realize that the nation itself was kind of already leaning left, coming out of just really the Clinton era, and I think that's who he was going for. Like, he's going for the left, like moderate, trying to play moderate.
I don't know. Coming out of the Clinton era, Kevin would remember this. He would remember things during FDR's presidency as well. But I mean, there was a time where Clinton, in 1996, where Clinton really said the era of big government is over. It was really shifting the other way, and that was post Newt Gingrich's contract with America. They saw
what happened. And what happened? What stopped that from happening? I'm going to poison this to you, Will, because you're the one who wants to shut down government.
Well, There was like what happened. How did the negotiations work, or what happened since to the House?
What happened was they did something that
yeah,
was portrayed, at least by the media, as being a totally something that was destroying the country when they shut down government, and there was a huge backlash, and that's why to this day everybody caves in when it comes to when it comes into debt ceilings and everything.
And just a point, the government has shut down 17 times since the late 70s. It happened, I think, 7 or 8 times under Reagan. It's happened under Clinton as well. They shut down the government. It's first of all, it's a strategy, and second of all, Congress itself can't shut the government down. They put these bills on the president's desk. He refused to sign them. That's how the government shuts down.
It's totally political. But when you don't have the media on your side in general, you're not shaping the narrative, and they are.
Let me give you proof of how it doesn't matter whether the media is on your side. 2 words: Donald Trump. People don't care about the media. They hate the media. Go out there and attack the media. Newt Gingrich got huge bumps when he attacked the media. People don't like, they get it. They get this media is no good. Donald Trump is a creation of the media and the establishment Republicans. He's nowhere near a conservative, but he's getting more conservative following than Rand Paul is. You know what I mean? Because they just can't stand this establishment, and they're showing it.
It still doesn't put the media on the side.
The media will never be on their side, and they never were. Never were.
The media does, even if, and Donald Trump's got a big bump from being kind of the anti-media, but the media still frames the narrative, and the media's done a great job, maybe accidentally, setting Donald Trump up to be that guy. And that's kind of how it happened. The media also did this with Bernie Sanders. That they talked about at first how he had no chance, and just talking about that made people look at Bernie Sanders like, well, who's this guy the media says has no chance?
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in him. So the media has power to frame the narratives, and they do that. And they did that with the government shutdown too.
But the narrative's against the media, though. I mean, look, like you said yourself, Bernie Sanders will never win it. What does Bernie Sanders get? A bump. People just don't trust the media, just like they don't trust the establishment GOP too. I just think that. How did Ronald Reagan do it? The media was all, even GOP media, the pundits were against him. George Will was against him. I just want to know how he did it, and how did he appeal to these Democrats, these Reagan Democrats? Where are they now? I don't believe they just disappeared. I really don't. I think a lot of them just don't show up.
Well, there's no Reagan out there, and there hasn't been for a while. And but somebody can't. There's nobody out there who can actually connect on the level that a Reagan did, where you really felt close to him and so forth. And because of that, no one's really fighting the narratives. Nobody's saying, listen, we can shut down government. You're not going to, it's not going to wreak havoc. Nothing's going to happen. All our payments and obligations will be met. Right. But we're not going to, this is our leverage and so forth. Nobody has effectively made that argument.
It's bad leadership.
It is bad leadership.
It's terrible.
It's all politics.
It was. I mean, you remember the one government shutdown where the Obama administration was ordering, groups to put up fencing around national parks and all this stuff, and it was costing more money than it would have to actually keep the parks open. And they were doing that just because they wanted to show that the government was shut down, so you can't go to the park.
And what do the Republicans do? They cave and apologize.
And then the Republicans became apologetic, and the Democrats came out the winner.
We have a party that apologizes for their principles. It's really sad what this is coming to. And I mean, if you look at the Democrat Party, I talked about this when Austin was on the show. The debate was socialism versus capitalism. I mean, that is insane. I don't know. I mean, what has it been? 25 years after the fall of the Soviet Union, and we're really debating this? I mean, that's mind-boggling.
You got a younger generation that, and even I was only, 3 years old when the Soviet Union fell, so you got a lot of people that don't really remember or don't really know firsthand kind of how bad that situation was. And the countries that are currently more socialist countries, like Cuba or North Korea, they're isolated. You don't really hear a lot about them. You're never going to travel there. They're not a huge threat to the United States every day like the Soviet Union was. So they don't really hear about this stuff anymore like they used to back in the 80s.
Kevin, I don't know if you saw this. Maybe Grant saw it. But there was a study done on younger people. and they're not as liberal as they were. They're really up for grabs. I think it's a lot of the older people that are really starting to lean left. I can't remember who did the study. Oh, it was Harvard. Harvard did the study. Did you see that, Mike?
I saw one by Pew Research. I didn't see one by Harvard.
Yeah, that said that younger kids are starting to turn away from, like, this Obama movement and everything, and they're really up for grabs. And if somebody on the right can really step in there and pick up these voters, I mean, it'd be a huge deal. I think that focusing on liberty itself, on the Constitution, I mean, people think to get young voters you need to talk about marijuana and legalizing gay marriage and stuff. I just think that that's overly simplistic. I think they want to hear how when they get out of college they're going to be able to get a job. I think that's the biggest worry of most of these kids and every poll you see, it's always the economy. So I think talking about limiting government, showing how cutting taxes helps, bringing businesses back, you know what I mean? Well, is really a big deal, and I don't hear. Maybe because I don't pay attention enough, but I don't hear a lot of it on the campaign trail, or maybe because Trump's a front runner and he never really talks about it.
Well, they're talking about it tonight, but I don't necessarily know if there's going to be any groundbreaking moves towards the right from that group of people. But yeah, I've seen a study. It might have been Pew, I don't remember, but it was a study showing that the youths are becoming more libertarian, and the more socialist people. Now, this was before Bernie hit it big, but the more socialist people are essentially dying out. They're getting older, and they're being replaced by a more libertarian mindset. That said, I don't necessarily I'm not sure I agree with that, because I still see a lot of people saying, the government has to help, the government has to do this, the government has to increase their programs for the poor and so forth. So I'm not sure that's actually true, but yeah, I've seen it. That libertarians are being born as socialists are dying.
Remember when Robert Gibson was on the show and Manny, and all they said is, we need jobs and we need jobs. It's like, where do you think jobs come from? You think like it's about wealth creation, and all you've talked about the whole entire time is subduing wealth creation.
Didn't one of them say the government should assign jobs?
Yes. He wanted a guaranteed jobs program.
Oh, yeah, I think I brought that up. I said, where do jobs come from? What jobs does the government create? They don't create wealth. Jobs come from wealth, increasing wealth. Oh, we need jobs, and all you do is talk about destruction thereof.
Will, would you agree that we should aim for productivity instead of jobs?
We should aim certainly productivity.
Like if we're doing more with less people, we have more available to everyone.
But productivity, yes. I mean, productivity is an offshoot thereof of wealth creation, creating an environment for people to create wealth, ideas, innovation, investing, saving, putting money away so that people actually have access to money when they want to invest and create wealth. I mean, that's what it is we tax investments, we tax savings, and then we subsidize consumption. You know what I mean? Thinking that just consuming is wealth, or that printing money is wealth, rather than actually saving and investing and innovation, and we tax all of that. It's insanity.
But
and then go ahead.
It's not even that. I think we tax labor a lot. I think we tax labor a lot more than even liberals understand.
Well, the income tax.
And I was thinking about doing a post on this, and it's kind of personal, but I decided it was like a couple years ago, so it doesn't matter. But like a couple years ago, I was earning like $40,000 a year at the company I'm at now, working full time. Had health insurance. It was like $70 a month. But just in federal money alone, money that was going out of my paycheck to the federal government year to date, around this time, it would be like $5,000.
Isn't that terrible?
And I wasn't like a high income earning person.
Yeah, you're struggling.
$5,000 is a lot.
And you'll never see it again. It goes to Social Security, and
exactly.
And
even if I am in a situation where I don't even I would need to plan for my own retirement now or whatever it might be, that money could still be more valuable to me today. You know what I mean? To do something else with or whatever.
Imagine you took that.
I think we had this idea that just pay your taxes and we'll all benefit from it. It's just like not that big of a deal. But
I did a post.
I could just think to myself, if you're like from a poor background, like this must be, I'm from a well-off family, but this must be terrible.
Yep. You're from a well-off family, dude? Why do you dress like that?
It's because I try to remain humble. You know, I don't have French doors.
Is Kevin your dad?
You know, I try to live with everybody. I try to live with everybody.
I didn't know until just now that Kevin's your dad, Grant.
So yeah, I did a post today actually, which is totally on the topic you're talking about. Just saying, trying to combat the narrative that somehow the CEOs are the reason that the people of America don't have more money. And I said, if you took, and I got the numbers directly from the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, if you took 100% of all CEO pay in America, and there's 250,000 CEOs, that, you know, every time you look at the top 100 CEOs, they're only looking at 100 people. There's 250,000 CEOs. If you took 100% of all their pay, took it away from them, and divided it up between the workers, you know, the other people who aren't CEOs, you would increase everybody's hourly wage by 16 cents, okay? On the other hand, if you took all the money that government spends and divided that up between the workers, you would get a raise of $23.50 per hour. I mean, that's how much they're taking.
Wow.
Government is spending for every worker, it is spending $23 per hour versus 16 cents that people say, you know, that CEOs are somehow taking from the rest of the workers. I mean, it's insane. It's insane that people don't realize that the real thing keeping, you know, wages low is essentially that we have to pay for all these government mandates and, you know, all these things that governments are taking money from. And
right.
You know, I'm not saying that we should get rid of government spending. I'm just pointing it out to show how much government takes out of the economy.
And all that money, go ahead. All that money they're taking out of the economy is money that cannot be saved, nor invested, nor put towards allocating resources. What they do is they take it and they spend it inefficiently on things people don't want. God only knows where it goes. So that kills wealth creation now. And part of the reason why we have such a large workforce and wages aren't going up is supply obviously is larger than demand. But I mean, it's that we take this money from the private sector that creates wealth and creates jobs, and then act like, oh, you know, we're doing so much good here. It's insane from an economic standpoint to continue doing what we're doing at the rate at what we're doing it.
I know where some of it goes. I know, what was it, 2 to 8 billion? I can't remember the exact figure. It goes to a blimp that they can't even keep tied to the ground. So that's part of where it goes. We know that.
We need more blimp regulations. Let me tell you that.
Were you just waving a fork at the camera?
Oh no,
Yeah.
I was going to bring this up because you talked about productivity. You see this?
Oh, back scratcher.
Right here. I just got.
Made out of ivory. That is an wait, whoa. Let's see that handle.
That is an ivory.
Ivory handled back
No,
scratcher.
it's not. It's a $6 back scratcher made in China. But you know what this little guy did, this piece of technology? It effectively rendered my 7-year-old worthless to me because he no longer has a job now that I have a back scratcher that takes the place of the only thing he does of any value to me. So, what does that mean?
Your 7-year-old scratches your back?
Yeah,
It means
that's
that
all he does.
technology destroys jobs. That's what that means.
It destroys jobs. This has destroyed his job.
Yes.
So,
Well, how many jobs has that created though? Selling those.
well, exactly. And what has it done? It has freed up his time so that he can do more things like invent better medicine and
Do
so
something
forth.
more productive than scratching.
Maybe he could build a clock and get invited to the White House.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
So-
has that ever happened before? I don't think so.
Can we put him in the fields? Let's put him in the fields and put him to work.
Yeah. These computers have taken a lot of manual labor away from people that need the work.
Well, you know, you were talking about though how we had Carl and the guy from Occupy Democrats on, and they said that we needed a jobs program, and just if you could create jobs, it goes back to the old Friedman tale about you know, he sees them digging holes with a shovel, and he's like, well, if you want to create more jobs, why don't you just give them a spoon?
Yep.
You know, you can't just create. There's nothing productive being done there. You're not creating any wealth for anybody. But this is such a basic economic point that today's left just does not understand.
We're constantly trying to explain why people are poor rather than trying to tell people or explain why people are rich. Poverty is the condition of the human being throughout history. It's really what we should be trying to explain is how are some prosperous? You know what I mean? We're always like, everybody should prosper. Everybody should be doing well. These are questions that they never dealt with during the antebellum South, for instance. Nobody was
the
like,
opposite.
yeah.
You get the vilification of prosperity now.
Yep, exactly.
So,
Was it Buckley who said, It was, in the 30s they told us to collectivize because everybody was too poor. Now they tell us we need to collectivize because everybody's too rich.
I saw a statistic the other day. I guess this year now the median household income of the world is $10,000. Can you imagine that being the case 25 years ago? Free market capitalism has made the world so much more wealthy than it was even a half century ago. The $10,000 median household income is nothing to scoff at. That includes some of the poorest countries in the world. So we've made a lot of progress and created a lot of wealth and jobs and better living standards for people all over the world this way.
The number's higher than that, too, actually. I did a post on that a while back, and I think I screwed up on the math. And I had it at 10,000. It's 10,000 per capita, which makes it much higher than per household. At least
per capita is even way. Yeah, that's crazy.
Based on the sources that there aren't many sources for this number, but yeah, poverty has declined. Absolute poverty, which is defined as the amount you can live on, has declined from something like 70% of the world to, I think it's at 12% now, and it's expected to go down to 10% within the next few years.
This is crazy. Why is capitalism
globalization?
Why is capitalism so under assault, though?
That was all. This has all been racism going on. All this improvements of lifestyles and great inventions. It's just all whiteness. Really.
I don't remember in my lifetime capitalism being so under assault. I don't. So, if it's performing so well, how are these it's just pure demagoguery, pure populism? I don't know. I mean, I've seen this happen in Latin America.
Everybody else's expense.
People do well in Latin America they have free markets for a little while. People do well, it becomes prosperous. Then demagogues come in and utilize the poor to get into power. And it's the same way we're happening here.
I want to know. I want to get like a hardcore Bernie Sanders supporter on here, and we should have asked Carl and Omar. Where do you want Bernie Sanders to draw the line as far as government intervention and government nationalization and supposed democratic socialism? Like, where do you draw the line at that's enough government intervention? You know what I mean?
There is no line.
Do they know? Like, do they know how to draw?
First of all, let's talk about that. What the hell is democratic socialism?
All right, that's not a real thing. It's fascism.
That's exactly what I said that on my page. Fascism. I said that on my page, and people are like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." First of all, democracy is a political system, meaning rule by the people. So we got that out of the way. Socialism means the collective ownership of property. Okay, so I mean, you're looking at the socialism as a pure form of the resource allocation that's owned by the collective. Why do you need to say it's? I guess you could say it's under a democratic system, but what does that mean?
It means
majority rule.
There's no word for we're going to nationalize some industries but not others. And the only word for that is fascism.
Right. No, that's what it is. So it's like saying that
they won't admit it. That's what I'm saying.
The collective owns the property, but majority rules. Yeah.
Well, I have an interesting answer on this because we discussed this last week or something on Unbiased America, and I presented the question. I said, is it possible for free markets or freer markets or whatever to survive in a system that gives so much power to democracy, to the people? I know we're not a democracy, but certainly our
democratic aspects.
Yes, and is it possible for free markets to survive? Because really the only places that the free markets have survived almost intact are the two places in the world that limited democratic reform, that limited democratic powers. That's Hong Kong and Singapore. And both those governments did not allow the people, essentially, to change the government policies, which were free market. Every other system has been, this is what I think democratic socialism is, every other system has, the people have been persuaded over time to accept socialism. And they're still voting on it, and they're still democratic, but the programs that they've accepted are now socialist.
I challenge you. Well, the United States is another one that capitalism survived for a long time because they restricted government, and I will contend to this day that whatever socialist or more aptly put fascist reforms we've had, certainly during the progressive movement, were really violations of the rule of law. and that, look at all of these things that have happened. I mean, they're really egregious usurpations of the Constitution itself.
Nobody rose up. Nobody rose up.
No one did anything.
Embraced it.
Well,
I think we're the
I don't know if they embraced it. I think, again, going back to the Fabian Socialist movement, they were so subversive. This was over a 100-year period that it took to break down these institutions. The Supreme Court, the bureaucracy, colleges, the media, the intelligentsia, Hollywood. They control everything. You know what I mean? This is over a long period of time it took them to do this.
But that's the exception. America's the exception to the rule. The other countries, Europe used to be, more in line with the free markets. Not anymore.
No, I mean,
That was a quick fall.
Europe has always been. I can't find the words, but gosh, they've always been prone to these hardened political movements. Look at the fascist movement and in Nazi Germany, Mussolini's Italy. Then you had the Bolsheviks in Russia. They've always been prone to these big political movements because they don't really have any sort of concept of a rule of law or natural rights like the United States
Africa as well. Really went to the left. Went mostly even communist or socialist certainly. Southeast Asia had its. I mean, you had China. I think we were the exception, and we still managed to last. We're still not out. We're still treading towards socialism, and we've got a guy, Bernie Sanders, who's now openly running as a socialist. I never thought I'd see the day.
We're getting discouraged here, but I think we hear a lot, like we said, we hear a lot from the media and popular culture and in the intelligentsia and pundits about socialism, but there's a large swath of people in this country, in between the East Coast where you guys live, or, not Mike, but Mike lives in the Detroit area, which is the same exact thing, and California, where people don't believe this stuff. They stand behind capitalism. They do stand behind liberty. And I think we're just so watered down with all this crap all the time that we don't see the large majority, what I guess you could call the silent majority, that are tired of it. I know that they exist.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm getting I get saturated a little bit too much in social media, and just being on the internet sometimes and seeing those media sites, because like you said, they're primarily based in East and West Coast cities where a lot of our economic activity and population is based, but sometimes it's not everything in the middle.
I mean, when you guys are going through your everyday lives as opposed to social media, I think sometimes, geez, these anarchists have a lot of power. You know what I mean? If you were to just look online, I mean, you would think that there's like an anarchist candidate or something, and then you're out in the real world. The only reason I've ever met any is because I have mutual friends through social media. I've never met somebody that said, "Yeah, I'm an anarchist." I don't. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I've never had anybody even know what that is, let alone people that, you know what I mean? So I think that we are saturated with social media with certain things, and a lot of it is, on social media, what you're seeing is you have a lot of friends that are from Philly. Kevin probably has friends that are obviously from Connecticut, and Mike has friends that live in the Detroit area or Michigan, which is a lefty place. You know what I mean? I'm sure in certain areas of where Mike lives, there isn't. There's still probably some people that are conservative. But where I live, all my friends.
I live in probably the most conservative city in the country right now. So.
Okay, yeah. See, there's certain, but it's still a blue state at this point. So we see these things. My friends are all from New York and Southern California. Everything I see on Facebook is all leftist propaganda. Literally, I see Occupy Democrats every day, or U.S. Uncut. It was funny. Did you guys see, though, the story of the guy, finally somebody entered the market and undercut that one half-wit from...
That was beautiful.
And it took how long? A month?
A month, maybe.
Finish your story. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you mean the one with... I can't remember where I was at.
They call him Pharma Bro, the guy with the AIDS drug or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. I saw
that. Okay, well, somebody else just opened up shop, and they undercut him by like 600%.
Yeah.
And they're gonna drive. They're gonna drive his line out of business.
How greedy is that of that guy to do that, to undercut him?
REI is closing on Black Friday, so we can go outside and all go outside instead. Because capitalism can never address social concerns. There's no social justice.
No, well, you don't understand that other guy that entered the market's greedy and just wants the profits for himself.
Yeah. He hates sick people.
Come on, Grant. Yeah, he hates them, and now he's going to charge $1. How dare he charge $1?
Should be free.
Free.
Yes, like female contraception.
I shared this thing on the Analytical Conservative. I don't know if you guys saw it. This thing on some gal doing like a satirical post,
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
and I put it on there. Like I was like, oh yeah, this is real, you know. Like I didn't know it was satire. The thing blew up, you know.
Yeah.
And the gal that did it's on my page. Like I can't believe you didn't know this was satire. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know it's satire, but people actually believe this. You know, my whole essay is satire. I get A's. Go ahead, Grant.
Did you guys hear about the WHO announcement about bacon?
Yeah.
All right, so I was at the King of Prussia Mall this last weekend, and I wanna plug this because I bought it at a little like farmers market stand. You guys see it? It's bacon jams. It's bacon spread that you spread on your breakfast food, and this is like the best thing I've ever had in my life.
But is it like is it a jam or?
It's a jam. Look, you can see inside.
Crew's killing it.
And it reeks like bacon.
Has anyone been watching? Have you been watching the debate at all, Will?
No, I'm just recording it now.
Oh.
I don't want to miss it.
I think we have to have, you know, on that topic, and this is another way that media sensationalized headlines. By the way, who found out was basically that we've always known this, is that red meat is bad for your health when you eat too much of it, and
exactly.
That can lead to cancer. And that we have media headlines, like some of the headlines I saw were study, red meat just as dangerous as tobacco, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not. This isn't the same thing. But it's just one of those things where, you know, if they actually took time to read the study, most of the scientists that took part in it, the majority of them said that there is no correlation between red meat and
right. You know why they're doing that?
Cancer.
You know why they're doing that? Because that's the left's new target. Because of global emissions or CO2 emissions. Mm-hmm. You know, they actually to raise cattle is one of the most CO2 produces the most CO2 of any. You know, it's got the biggest carbon footprint or something. And so they're really going after it. CNN has had this ongoing. I don't know if you guys saw this. This ongoing series of articles talking about what we should be doing to save the world. And it says we got to start eating bugs, all right? And it has all these articles about you have to eat larvae and all this stuff. You can't eat meat anymore. And now, of course, that, you know, the same organizations come out and say that meat is going to kill us. So, you know, I'm sure those two.
Green movement, though, you know, global
warming, way to die.
Greens, degrowth. There's actual movement in Europe called the degrowth movement.
Yes.
And it's to really turn back. I mean, literally go back in time to the time where production was a lot less. People are basically hunter-gatherers. I wish I was kidding. They love Native Americans too. Oh, they're first ecologists, and you know, they were, you know, these people could serve their environment. What are you talking about?
Ecologists.
No, I mean, you know, this is the lifestyle that we should have. It's better than the American way of life.
I encountered that argument, and I said to people, I said to some liberals, I said, you know that entails the poor getting poorer, right? You know that if you actually reduce world GDP, everybody gets poorer, including the poor people. And, you know, suddenly it was like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Read this, read that, you know. We'd be so much happier, such a better society if we just reduced growth.
Yeah, seriously. You know, back when what, you know, the average lifespan was 40 years, more people died of starvation. Now, you know, the problem that we have nowadays is that people are too fat. We have so much abundance that the problem is that we're all obese. So we'd all be happier if we could just go back to a time when we only lived 40 years and we didn't know where we were going to get our next meal from. That's the goal here, apparently. I just don't understand it.
There was a guy in Texas a few years ago who gave a speech in which he stood up and said, I'm going to be the brave one, the one who has to say this, but we need to eliminate half the world population in order for the rest of us to survive. And he got a standing ovation, and these were relatively mainstream scientists and so forth that were in attendance. And you know, that story's gone viral a bit, but it's true. I mean, there's the people out there that have these thoughts in their heads of how they're going to cure our problems are insane. Science has always cured everything in the past. You know, why can't we lean on science for the future? Why do we have to cut growth? Why do we have to kill half of the population? we're in a weird time. I mean, it's all backwards to the way it used to be. It almost seems like we're entering another dark age.
Yeah, well, part of what, and this has been part of capitalism, and science has grown at the same time as capitalism, is that we've always found a way to adapt to changes. And it seems like now they're saying we have to rewind everything. We have to kill off half the population and go back to, what it was before, where the goal has always been, maybe for the last 250 years, that no matter what problem we're confronted with, whether it's starvation, whether it's low wealth, is that we're going to adapt to changes with scientific advancement, with more productivity, with more wealth. And now we're trying to turn back the clock. It doesn't. But the problem is, this kind of thinking is getting more and more popular. And if we have bright minds thinking about how we're going to turn back the clock instead of how we're going to adapt to a changing world, we're not going to have enough people actually solving the real problems.
Yeah, exactly. If people don't start waking up pretty soon, I mean, you're going to have people looking to solutions that are worse than the problems, and that's essentially what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Start doomsday prepping, boys.
Yeah, here we go, man.
You're susceptible to a leader kind of like Hitler, who said we need to exterminate a certain group of people, and it'll be better for all of us. That's the kind of thing you're susceptible to when you allow that kind of thinking. We have to eliminate a certain group of people so that the rest of us can thrive. This is good for everybody. It's good for the planet. It's good for your wealth. It's good for your. That's the kind of thing that can happen when you let this kind of thinking creep in. And
what I saw too is that when you look at the global warming debate, and I know a lot of people don't even believe it exists, but let's for a second assume it does exist. You have people coming out there and saying, you know what? What we need to do is, like you guys said, reduce growth. We need to cut back on production. We need to limit ourselves to our lifestyle that's lower than we're expected to have, and so forth. Basically, taking the worst case solution and promoting that as the way to go. And I've always thought to myself, well, why don't we lean on science, like I said before? Why don't we start looking into answers, scientific answers, geoengineering? So I start digging about for geoengineering, and I start looking up stories. Apparently, ever since geoengineering, which is using science to reduce global warming, if it becomes an actual problem, people are boycotting geoengineering. There's people actually who are so vested in this anti-growth solution that they're boycotting. They're saying, we don't even want to raise the subject of using science to solve the problem anymore. We're going to boycott it and only talk about reducing, taxing, carbon taxes and so forth, and reducing growth. That's how bad. I mean, that's how different it is now than it was 50 years ago when science was solving problems. Now it's being boycotted.
Well, you look at fracking. Fracking's way better for the environment than traditional ways of getting fuel, but yet that's been vilified in recent years for some reason, even though 50 years ago this was a scientific breakthrough that maybe didn't have enough money to produce a lot of oil, but now it does. But scientists back then were promoting this as a better environmental way to continue our standard of living on fossil fuels until we scientifically have a better an alternative. But now this process that's better for the environment is vilified by the environmental left, and we can't even have the discussion anymore about ways to make scientific discovery continue our standard of living. It has to be, we have to roll back our standard of living. And if we find ways to continue to have such a high standard of living while being scientifically better for the environment, that's not a discussion we can have anymore. That's off the table. The debate's over, as they like to say. They always like to tell us the debate's over. But really, some of these discoveries have a blueprint for making the world and the environment a better place, but we can't even talk about them.
Yeah, but Mike, I think what you were saying earlier about how everyone's now against fracking, even though it's better for the environment, I think they're really against both. They're against oil drilling and fracking. You know what I mean? So it is that degrowth mindset of let's just be against the next biggest energy movement because we don't want it to continue. You know, they've always been against oil, and then when fracking became popular, even though it had already existed forever, they were even more against fracking just because it was a new source of sustenance for a free market economy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. You know, fracking continues the status quo of fossil fuel consumption, and even though it's better for the environment, it's still bad because they're still digging for oil. Well, I mean, it's still a better alternative to what there was before, and maybe down the road we'll have alternative fuels that are even better for the environment. But right now, fracking is better for the environment, and it allows us to continue our standard of living. So you would think that if you're an environmentalist, you would be happy with the growth of fracking, but apparently not.
Yeah, if Bernie Sanders becomes president, I'm gonna find myself an island.
Are you gonna frack there?
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to start my own capitalist society.
Can anyone hear me? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it, we lost him for a while.
Yeah, I couldn't talk, and you guys just were...
That's the best show.
Seriously, I felt it was so much freedom. I just felt like
shit.
There was no bumbling rants, you know. There's just.
Are you listening? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah, we got you.
I can hear you, Will.
I mean, capitalism as a whole is what they despise, and the United States of America stands for capitalism, liberty, the Constitution. They hate it all. That's why they hate this country.
The show just got worse now that he's back. It just became.
My classes are literally predicated on.
Predicated. We went 10 minutes without hearing the word predicated. He's back, and now we hear predicated.
And look at that cereal collection he's got above his fridge. That is a very impressive cereal collection.
Cereal is cheap, boys. It's cheap. That's what I eat 3 meals a day.
You have like 15 boxes of them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cheap right there, guys. That's how you live.
That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner right there.
Are you wearing
he's just avoiding red meat. He doesn't want to get cancer.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to get
the lowest carbon footprint of all of us because filthy poor.
Too poor to have a carbon footprint.
That is true. I mean, I'd have no carbon footprint. I don't even have a car. That's how poor I am. I mean, you know, it's pretty bad. I take the bus, and it's a green bus around here.
Are we doing winners and losers? Because I got one that's going to piss you guys off.
Let's do winners and losers. We got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I don't have a loser because I never really gave it any thought, but I got a winner for you, and this is going to piss you off especially. John Boehner.
You're an idiot. You are an idiot.
To me, John Boehner is one of the people who is the most vilified people in America on all sides. And yet, let me show you something.
Here we go.
This is nominal spending under John Boehner. You see that little, where it stopped going up there? That was when he had Congress, and he ended up with the House, and he stopped allowing spending increases, which you seem to think that we've been having all these spending increases. Other than that first year with that huge jump up, which was when Pelosi and the Democrats had that supermajority. After that occurred, look, that's nominal, by the way. That's not GDP adjusted.
So wait, the red ones that are increasing, that's not under Boehner?
No, that hasn't happened yet. Those are projections.
Okay, so he hasn't stopped it. What he has stopped is what you're saying. He hasn't stopped the normal increases, right?
No, it stopped increasing. In fact, it went down several years spending. Which has not happened. Even in the 90s, spending did not go down.
One, we had the sequestration, which was terrible, which was an awful policy. And in 2010, the Tea Party movement, they forced in that budget. What was the thing called? They limited spending by tying increases in spending with corresponding cuts, but they never followed through all the way with it, obviously because of John Boehner. And he's had many chances to decrease the normal increases. What he's only done is decrease the increases.
No, he hasn't. This is nominal data. It has not increased.
That looks like it's increasing to me.
No, it's gone down. It went down in 2009. It went up slightly in 2010, then back down again in 2011, down more in 2012. Up very small amount in 2014.
What is it as a percentage of national income?
Well, it's gone down because
As a
it's gone down
percentage of national income?
GDP, it's gone down significantly.
I'd like to see it as a
All
percentage.
right, go on to the next guy, and I'll find you that.
Okay. I don't know. I just don't think. I think that's crazy.
But it's true.
Yeah,
it goes against the narrative.
There is no narrative. This is the most profligate spending Congress in the history of the United States of America. You can't deny that.
It is, but it has not been increasing.
Well, thank God. Oh, they found a point.
Listen, I love telling people things they don't know.
No, it's not.
That's all I'm trying to tell people.
It's not that. It's about. First of all, there are increases built into the budget. That's why you have red lines increasing so much higher, and that's because one, they don't do anything about the normal increases.
Total federal spending since 2009 has been at $3.5 trillion until 2016, when it's expected to go up significantly for the first time.
Yeah, because those are built into the budget. I find it odd that this is the time when Boehner wants to leave. Those are all built into it.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying he's a good speaker. I'm just saying, let's not think that that
I just don't.
Isn't that kind of the argument that Obama supporters have used? The Obama reduced the budget argument.
Exactly, yeah.
But then when Obama leaves office, the budget's going to explode because it's already built in. With Obamacare and some of the budget compromises, he reduced the deficit that he built, but he's going to leave with projected deficits for the next decade that skyrocket above where they were before.
All right, I found what it is as a percent of GDP, and this shows even more what Obama did. Because you see that very first, the gigantic shoot up there? Two things happened. Number one, he got his way with the that huge stimulus bill, and everybody supported him on it, and so that went up. But at the same time, the GDP crashed during the recession. So you had that, you had basically that's what created the problem.
I would say
Obama and his spending people created the problem. But since then, it has gone down as a percent of GDP because they have not increased nominal spending.
Right, but it should go down more than that. Again,
I agree.
To run deficits, that's not Obama. That's the Republicans. That's the Republican Party that's running these huge deficits. We keep forgetting that they're the ones that spend. Does Obama make it harder? Certainly a little bit, but the Republicans could have many chances to not increase the debt ceiling. To use continuing resolutions, to use the budget reconciliation process to defund a lot of these things. They've done nothing.
The bad problem is what happened this week with the 2-year agreement to allow. I mean, that is basically going to. We did, believe it or not, we had no spending increases for a while. That right there has basically freed the government from sequestration and has now put us back on this upward arc that we faced throughout the last century.
And that spending policy was passed in 2010 with the Tea Party insurgency there, and they wanted that was the one thing that they wanted was if you're going to give the Democrats this massive increase in spending, you're going to have to also have corresponding spending cuts. Again, they never really followed that plan through. They got around it. Obviously, they're budget rules. They're not really by law. So they really tried to go around them, and a lot of the spending is on the back end. And now what they're doing now with this new budget is they completely got rid of it. And it's funny because the new speaker here, Paul Ryan, who voted for TARP, voted for a lot of these things, voted for stimulus. I think he voted for Obama's second round of stimulus, the smaller package. I don't remember. The guy has done so many stupid things. And I think he's going to end up voting for this budget deal, too.
Yeah, it's already come out that he supports it, and he's telling people to support it.
So this is our new conservative speaker here. I can't stand when people tell me he's a conservative. He's not a conservative. He's not even anything close. I wouldn't even. He's not a capitalist. He's not. Doesn't stand for liberty. He's not. He's another John Boehner. That's exactly what we got. And when he said he wanted to come in here, oh yeah, I have conditions. You can't go against me. Those are my conditions. This guy, unbelievable. That's why we're in big trouble is because there isn't an opposition party in Washington. Again, we just don't have one. It's not the Republican Party. So I don't know what to do.
Become an anarchist.
That's the only option.
Kill yourself.
Let's get a revolt going, guys.
Yeah.
A revolution. Let's do it Yal's way. Let's just convince everybody that we have this perceived right to smoke pot and get all the young kids on our side. just marijuana, and then all of a sudden we'll overrun the federal government.
Do what the anarchists tell us to do. Vote harder.
Yeah.
No, vote for the collapse, man. Vote for the collapse.
You know, it works even better not voting. If you don't vote harder, anarchists.
You're not participating in theft. Gosh.
But anyway, I'm going to go watch this debate, and I'm going to watch, I guess Rubio's been doing well so far.
Good.
Sounds like a status circle jerk.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well, just like our show. Anyway, thanks. Who's coming on? Is it Mary Rowert next week, Kevin?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And
she's good.
Yeah, we'll talk to her. There's more I need to find out about her. Can you give us a little background, though, Kevin?
Yeah, she was I believe she has a doctorate in some medical field and ended up getting into libertarian politics and was on the ballot one year as early as the 80s. Ended up almost being the nominee. I think 2 or 3 years ago, everybody wanted her to run, and she's sort of always named when it comes to a libertarian candidate for the presidency. She's older now, though. She's like 66. So I'm not sure she's still involved in politics.
What's her PhD in?
It's something in the medical field.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, she'll be on next week. So Grant Phillips over here, who hasn't really posted anything in a while.
No, I'm sorry, guys. I have a capitalist job.
Kevin Ryan at Unbiased America. I'm sorry, I should mention we are capitalists as well. They came out with a new video on Donald Trump. Check it out. And Michael Lee at Being Liberal Logic and Being Classically Liberal, who is a ghost. So how's the new admin doing at your page?
He's good so far.
Yeah.
I'll be helping him out a lot more. The business is opening next week, so should be more involved here hopefully when everything's operational. But he's doing good.
All right, so you got somebody there. So follow Being Liberal Logic and myself, Will Riccadella, at Unbiased America and the Analytical Conservative. I'm probably the coolest person on this panel, and I have the best beard, and the best everything else.
Here.
I don't know. Look at Grant's got something going there.
You don't even
Grant's is the best I've ever seen. Grant's this week. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you do look like you're in prison with that beard, though.
I
look like in prison.
A while ago.
And your hoodie and everything. You look like a criminal.
Florida Gators.
Yep, that's for sure. That's criminal activity right there. Anyway, tune in next week.
Gang sons.
PhD Mary Rowert. We're gonna have fun and enjoy this debate. See ya.